What if I told you that your brain has been programmed backwards, for manifestation? What if the way you breathe is actually creating quantum interference that blocks your desires? Today I'm going to share the breathing pattern that Nobel Prize-winning physicists say can restructure reality itself. You see, most manifestation techniques teach you to breathe for your desires, to visualize them as something outside yourself that you need to attract. We've been conditioned to think of our dreams as separate from us, something we must chase or pull toward ourselves. But quantum physics has revealed something incredible. When two particles become entangled, they instantly affect each other regardless of distance. What if your consciousness and your desires are already quantum entangled? This changes everything. I'm not just going to teach you another breathing technique that treats manifestation like some external process. Instead, I'm going to show you how to use quantum entanglement principles to dissolve the illusion of separation between you and what you want, making manifestation instantaneous through recognition rather than creation. Because here's the truth. You're not trying to get something you don't have. You're simply remembering what you already are. Here's what quantum physicists discovered that will blow your mind about manifestation. In the 1930s, Einstein was deeply troubled by what he called spooky action at a distance. He couldn't accept what quantum experiments were revealing about the nature of reality itself. What bothered him so much was the discovery that two particles, once they interact, become quantum entangled. This means that when you change one particle, its partner instantly responds no matter how far apart they are. We're talking about instantaneous connection across vast distances, faster than the speed of light, which Einstein thought was impossible. But here's where it gets fascinating for those of us exploring manifestation. When physicists like John Bell proved this phenomenon was real through his famous theorem, they weren't just discovering something about particles. They were uncovering a fundamental truth about the universe. Separation is an illusion. What appears to be two distinct things are actually aspects of one unified system, communicating through what scientists call non-local correlation. Think about this for a moment. If you've ever felt deeply connected to a loved one and somehow sensed when something was happening to them even from far away, you might have been experiencing this quantum phenomenon on a larger scale. The same invisible threads that connect particles across the cosmos could very well be connecting you to everything you've ever desired. Now let me share something that will completely shift how you think about your dreams and goals. When you observe one entangled particle, its partner immediately changes state regardless of distance. The moment you focus your awareness on one particle and measure it, its twin instantly knows and adjusts accordingly. There's no signal being sent. No time delay, no mechanism we can detect, just instantaneous, perfect coordination between two aspects of what scientists now understand is really one system appearing as two. This isn't just a curious scientific fact, it's a mirror for understanding consciousness itself. When you become aware of something, you're not passively observing from the outside. You're participating in a dynamic relationship where your awareness becomes entangled with what you're observing. Your consciousness doesn't just witness reality, it co-creates it through the very act of attention. Consider what this means for manifestation. Every time you focus on a desire, you're not reaching towards something separate from yourself. You're actually recognizing a quantum entanglement that already exists. Your awareness and your desires aren't two different things trying to connect. They're entangled aspects of one unified field of consciousness, appearing as separate only because of the way we've been taught to perceive reality. This is why traditional manifestation can feel so exhausting. When you believe you're trying to attract something from out there, you're working against the fundamental nature of reality. You're creating artificial separation where quantum physics shows us unity. It's like a wave trying to attract the ocean, not realizing it already is the ocean expressing itself in wave form. Your awareness and your desires are quantum-entangled aspects of one field. This means that every desire you've ever felt isn't a sign that you're lacking something. It's actually consciousness recognizing itself, calling you to remember what you already are. When you desire abundance, it's abundance recognizing itself through your awareness. When you long for love, it's love awakening to its own presence within you. When you dream of perfect health, it's wholeness acknowledging its own nature. The implications are staggering. If this is true, and quantum physics suggests it is, then manifestation isn't about getting something you don't have. It's about dissolving the illusion that you're separate from what you seek. It's about remembering that the seeker and the sought are quantum-entangled aspects of one consciousness, appearing as two only because of how we've learned to look. This is where breathing becomes the bridge between the quantum world and your lived experience. When you breathe in a way that acknowledges unity rather than separation, you're literally aligning your nervous system with quantum reality. Specific breath patterns can dissolve the boundaries your mind has created between you and your desires, allowing you to experience the truth that physicists have been discovering in their laboratories. When you breathe to release separation, you're working with the same forces that keep entangled particles connected across galaxies. You're tuning your consciousness to the frequency of unity that quantum physics shows us is the foundation of reality itself. This isn't metaphor. This is practical application of scientific discovery. The ancient mystics somehow knew this truth thousands of years before we had the instruments to measure quantum entanglement. They spoke of consciousness as one field appearing as many, of the wave recognizing itself as ocean. Now, quantum physics is confirming what wisdom traditions have always taught. Separation is the illusion, and unity is the truth. Before we continue, here's your first quantum secret you can use right now. Take 3 deep breaths, and with each exhale, say, "I release the illusion of separation." You'll immediately feel a shift in your energy field. Try it now, I'll wait. As you breathe this way, you're not trying to change anything or get anywhere. You're simply allowing your nervous system to remember what quantum physics has proven. You and everything you seek are already entangled aspects of one consciousness. The shift you feel isn't imagination. It's your body recognizing quantum truth. Now here's where quantum science gets really interesting. There's actually historical proof this works. Long before Einstein was born, ancient wisdom traditions were describing the exact same phenomena that quantum physicists are discovering today. They had different words for it, but they were pointing to the same fundamental truth about the nature of consciousness and reality. And what they taught about manifestation will transform everything you think you know about how desire becomes form. What I'm about to reveal was hidden in ancient texts for over 5,000 years. And when you hear it, you'll understand why. There's a beautiful teaching story from the Advaita Vedanta tradition that perfectly captures what quantum physicists are now proving in their laboratories. Picture a small wave on the ocean feeling separate and alone, desperately trying to reach the shore. The wave believes it must struggle and push to get anywhere, completely unaware of what it truly is. One day, an older wave approaches and asks, "Why are you working so hard?" The small wave replies, "I need to reach the shore. I need to become something more." The wise wave smiles gently and says, "Dear one, you are not just a wave trying to reach the shore. You are the ocean itself, temporarily expressing as a wave. You don't need to go anywhere or become anything. You already are everything you seek." This ancient story isn't just poetry. It's a precise description of quantum entanglement applied to consciousness. The wave represents your individual awareness, and the ocean represents the unified field that quantum physics reveals as the foundation of reality. When the wave realizes its true nature, it doesn't disappear. It simply stops struggling against itself. This moment of recognition is what the ancient teachers called enlightenment. And it's the same shift that happens when you understand quantum entanglement between your consciousness and your desires. The masters of Kashmir Shaivism developed incredibly sophisticated practices around this recognition, particularly through what they called divine recognition through breath. They discovered that specific breathing patterns could dissolve the boundaries between the observer and the observed, revealing what they termed spanda, the creative vibration that appears as both consciousness and its expressions. These weren't just meditation techniques. They were practical methods for experiencing the quantum truth that separation is an illusion created by limited perception. When a Kashmir Shaivism practitioner would breathe in, they would recognize themselves as the universal creative force drawing in its own energy. When they breathed out, they would recognize themselves as that same force, expressing as the entire world. Through this breath awareness practice, the artificial boundary between self and other would dissolve, revealing what they called pratyabhijna, the recognition of one's true divine nature. This is remarkably similar to what happens when quantum entangled particles recognize their unified nature through measurement and observation. One of the most powerful recognitions in these ancient teachings is captured in the Sanskrit phrase aham brahmasmi, which translates as I am the universal creative force. This isn't a declaration of ego or grandiosity, it's a recognition of quantum truth. When an ancient sage would meditate on this understanding, they weren't trying to become something greater. They were recognizing what consciousness actually is. Not a small, separate thing observing reality from the outside, but the very creative intelligence that appears as both the observer and everything being observed. This recognition completely transforms how manifestation works. Instead of trying to attract abundance, health, or love from outside yourself, you begin to recognize that the consciousness aware of wanting abundance is abundance itself, temporarily appearing to forget its own nature. The one who seeks healing is perfect wholeness, momentarily experiencing itself as separate from its own completeness. The awareness that longs for love is love itself, playing the cosmic game of forgetting and remembering its own infinite nature. The ancient masters also worked with the mantra Soham Asmi, which means I am that, where that refers to the ultimate reality, the unified field that appears as all existence. When you breathe with this recognition, something extraordinary happens. The inhale becomes the universe recognizing itself as your individual awareness, and the exhale becomes your individual awareness recognizing itself as the universe. The boundary dissolves not through effort or force, but through the gentle recognition of what was always already true. What's remarkable is how precisely these ancient teachings match what quantum physics reveals about entanglement. When you practice Soham breathing, you're experientially discovering what Bell's theorem proved mathematically. The observer and the observed are not separate entities, but entangled aspects of one system. Your breath becomes the bridge between the quantum truth and your lived experience, allowing your nervous system to align with the unity that consciousness has always been. These wisdom traditions understood that the mind creates the illusion of separation, but breath can dissolve it. When you breathe while holding the recognition, I am that, you're not trying to become something different. You're allowing your body and nervous system to remember what consciousness actually is. Not a separate observer trying to manifest external things, but the creative intelligence that appears as both the seeker and everything being sought. Here's an ancient power phrase you can use immediately. When you want something, instead of saying, I want this, to say, I recognize this as already mine. Feel the difference? That's quantum entanglement activating. You just shifted from separation to unity consciousness. But here's the most incredible part. These ancient masters described quantum entanglement 3,000 years before Einstein was even born, using the language of consciousness rather than particles, but pointing to the exact same phenomenon. The sages who developed these teachings weren't just philosophers or mystics. They were consciousness researchers who discovered through direct experience what our most advanced physics is now confirming. They mapped the territory of awareness with the same precision that modern scientists map subatomic particles, and their findings are identical. Reality is one unified field appearing as many, and the moment you truly recognize this, the struggle of manifestation dissolves into the ease of recognition. But knowing the science isn't enough. You need to experience the transformation yourself. This breathing technique will completely flip how you approach manifestation. Everything you've learned about manifestation breathing has been backwards. Most techniques teach you to breathe for your desires, to inhale with the intention of drawing abundance toward you, to exhale while pushing away limitations, to use your breath as a tool for attracting what you want from outside yourself. But this approach reinforces the very illusion that quantum physics and ancient wisdom traditions tell us is false. The illusion that you and your desires are separate. When you breathe for something, you're unconsciously affirming that it exists somewhere else, that you're here and it's there, and that you need to somehow bridge the gap between you. Your nervous system responds to this by maintaining a state of wanting, of reaching, of not yet having. Even if your conscious mind is filled with positive thoughts, your body is vibrating with the frequency of separation and lack. Instead of breathing for your desires, you breathe as your desires. This isn't just a subtle shift in technique. It's a complete revolution in how you relate to manifestation itself. When you breathe as abundance, your nervous system stops searching for abundance and starts embodying it. When you breathe as love, your heart stops seeking love and starts radiating it. When you breathe as perfect health, your body stops trying to heal and starts remembering its natural state of wholeness. The mirror breath method works with the quantum principle that consciousness and its expressions are entangled aspects of one field. Just as entangled particles mirror each other's states instantaneously, your breath can mirror the state of your fulfilled self, collapsing the wave of possibility into the reality of recognition. You're not using your breath to get somewhere. You're using it to realize you're already there. Here's how the technique works. When you inhale, you're breathing with the breath of your fulfilled self. Not imagining it, not pretending it, but recognizing that the consciousness that desires abundance is abundance itself, temporarily appearing to forget its own nature. Your inhale becomes the universe recognizing itself as the fulfilled version of you. You're not breathing in to get abundance, you're breathing as abundance recognizing itself. When you exhale, you're breathing with the gratitude of manifested reality, not the forced gratitude of someone trying to convince themselves that they're thankful, but the natural, effortless gratitude that flows from recognizing what you actually are. Your exhale becomes your fulfilled self's appreciation for its own perfect nature. You're not breathing out to release lack. You're breathing as someone who has never known lack, expressing the joy of remembering your true nature. This creates what I call the mirror effect. Just as a mirror doesn't try to reflect your face, it simply does so naturally because that's its nature. Your reality begins to mirror your embodied state without effort or strain. When you consistently breathe as your fulfilled self rather than for fulfillment, your external world has no choice but to reorganize itself around this new frequency. I remember working with someone who had been struggling with financial abundance for years. She had tried every manifestation technique imaginable: visualization, affirmations, gratitude practices, even energy clearings. Nothing seemed to create lasting change, and she was beginning to feel hopeless. When I introduced her to the mirror breath method, something shifted immediately. Instead of breathing to attract money, she began breathing as someone who had never known financial worry. At first, it felt strange to her. She was so accustomed to the feeling of wanting, of reaching, of trying to pull abundance toward herself. But as she practiced breathing as abundance rather than for abundance, her entire relationship with money began to transform. She stopped checking her bank account obsessively. She stopped feeling anxious when bills arrived. She began making financial decisions from a place of trust rather than fear. Within weeks, opportunities began appearing that she had never noticed before. A freelance project that paid more than she'd ever earned, an unexpected refund from an old tax return, a friend offering to share a business opportunity, but more importantly, she realized that the abundance she'd been seeking had been there all along. She just hadn't been vibrating at the frequency that could recognize it. The moment separation dissolved was profound but gentle. She described it as suddenly realizing she had been wearing sunglasses indoors. When she removed them, the light had always been there, but she hadn't been able to see it clearly. She wasn't becoming abundant. She was recognizing that abundance had always been her true nature. The struggle hadn't been about getting something she didn't have. It had been about remembering what she had always been. This is what happens when you shift from breathing for your desires to breathing as your desires. The quantum field stops receiving mixed signals. The confusion between wanting and having dissolves. Your nervous system stops broadcasting lack and starts emanating wholeness. Most importantly, you stop waiting for your life to change and start recognizing that change happens through you, not to you. When you breathe as your fulfilled self, manifestation becomes effortless because you're no longer trying to manifest anything. You're simply allowing reality to mirror back the truth of what you actually are. The wave has remembered it's the ocean, and now everything flows with the natural ease of water finding its level. Quick manifestation hack for you. Right now, think of something you want. Instead of breathing to get it, breathe as if you already have it. Feel the difference in your body? That's your quantum field shifting. You just experienced unity breathing in real time. I have to warn you, once you experience this next level, you can never go back to ordinary manifestation. This is where most people get it wrong. They rush through without understanding the deeper process. They want to jump straight to the technique without building the foundation of quantum understanding that makes it work. But when you approach the mirror breath method with the recognition that you and your desires are already quantum entangled, everything changes. You're not learning a new skill. You're remembering an ancient truth that your body has always known. These 6 steps literally rewired my reality in 21 days. But step 5 is where the magic happens. Let me walk you through the complete mirror breath practice that integrates everything we've explored. This isn't just another technique to add to your manifestation toolkit. This is a complete system for dissolving the quantum illusion of separation and recognizing your entangled nature with everything you desire. The first step is preparation through recognition. Before you even begin breathing, you gently remind yourself of the quantum truth we've been exploring. You and your desires are not separate things trying to connect, but entangled aspects of one consciousness. Take a moment to feel this truth in your body, not as a belief you're trying to convince yourself of, but as a recognition of what consciousness actually is. This isn't positive thinking, this is quantum physics applied to awareness. Step 2 involves settling into unity awareness. Allow your body to relax and your mind to soften. You're not trying to get into a special state or achieve anything particular. You're simply allowing yourself to settle into the recognition that the one who desires and the desired are already unified. Think of it like a wave settling into the ocean, not disappearing but remembering its true nature. The third step is where you begin the actual mirror breath pattern. As you inhale, you're breathing as your fulfilled self. This means you're not imagining what it would feel like to have what you want. You're recognizing that the consciousness aware of wanting it is it, temporarily appearing to forget its own nature. Your inhale becomes the universe recognizing itself as the already fulfilled version of you. Step 4 is the exhalation of embodied gratitude. As you breathe out, you're exhaling as someone who has never known lack, expressing the natural gratitude that flows from recognizing what you actually are. This isn't forced appreciation, it's the organic joy that arises when a wave remembers it's the ocean. When consciousness recognizes its own infinite nature appearing as both the seeker and the sought. Stop. Before step 4, I need to tell you about the mistake 90% of people make here. Most people rush through these steps mechanically, treating them like a formula rather than a recognition practice. They breathe in trying to feel abundant and breathe out trying to feel grateful, but they're still operating from the assumption that they're separate from what they seek. The magic happens when you stop trying to feel anything and start recognizing what you already are. This isn't about generating emotions, it's about discovering the truth that dissolves the need for generation. Step 5 is where everything transforms. Sustained recognition during daily life. This is where you begin to breathe as your fulfilled self, not just during formal practice, but throughout your day. When you're paying bills, you breathe as someone who has never known financial worry. When you're alone, you breathe as someone who has never known loneliness. When you're facing challenges, you breathe as someone who has never doubted their capacity to navigate life with grace. The sixth and final step is living as unified consciousness. This is when the practice becomes your natural way of being. You no longer need to remind yourself to breathe as your desires because you've recognized that there never was anyone else to breathe as. The seeker, the seeking, and the sought have dissolved into the simple recognition of what consciousness has always been. The key to this entire process is understanding that you're not becoming something new. You're recognizing what you've always been. When you practice this way, something remarkable happens. Instead of trying to get abundance, health, love, or success, you start speaking and breathing from the recognition that you are what you have been seeking. I've watched practitioners reach this recognition, and suddenly their entire relationship with life transforms. They stop asking, "How can I get what I want?" and start living from the understanding, "I am what I have been seeking." Their words change, their energy shifts. Their presence becomes magnetic, not because they're trying to attract anything, but because they've stopped pushing anything away. When this recognition stabilizes, the moment arrives that mystics have pointed to for thousands of years, the dissolution of the seeker-seeking-sought paradigm. There's no longer someone trying to manifest something. There's simply consciousness recognizing itself everywhere, expressing as both the apparent individual and everything that individual has ever desired. The wave doesn't disappear into the ocean. It realizes it never left the ocean to begin with. This recognition isn't dramatic or overwhelming. It's more like gently removing sunglasses you forgot you were wearing. Suddenly everything is brighter and clearer, but it's the same world, you're just seeing it without the filter of separation. You realize that what you thought was missing was never actually absent. What you believed you needed to attract was never anywhere but here. What you imagined you had to become, you already are. This is when breathing becomes effortless, manifestation becomes natural, and life starts flowing with the ease of water finding its level. You're no longer swimming against the current of separation. You're floating in the recognition that you and the current are one movement of consciousness. Bonus technique just for staying with me. Tonight before sleep, place your hand on your heart and breathe while saying, "I am already everything I seek." Do this for just 2 minutes and watch how differently you wake up tomorrow. This is quantum programming at its finest. You're not programming yourself to believe something that isn't true. You're programming your nervous system to recognize something that has always been true but got forgotten in the illusion of separation. When you master this technique, something incredible happens to your entire reality. The external world doesn't change first and then you feel different. You recognize what you are, and then the external world reorganizes itself to match this recognition. It's not magic in the supernatural sense. It's the natural result of aligning with quantum truth. When you stop broadcasting separation, the field stops reflecting separation back to you. When you embody unity, unity becomes your lived experience. This is how consciousness works, how the quantum field responds, and how manifestation becomes as natural as breathing itself. Unity breathing dissolves the quantum illusion of separation, revealing that you and your desires are quantum-entangled aspects of one consciousness, making manifestation instantaneous through recognition rather than creation. Since you watched until the end, here's your quantum manifestation cheat code. For the next 7 days, start every morning by breathing as your fulfilled self for just 3 minutes. By day 7, you'll understand what I mean when I say, you are what you seek. If this quantum approach to manifestation resonates with you, you'll want to go back and watch my previous video about breaking the habit of being yourself, where I reveal how people are literally healing diseases and transforming their entire reality by becoming someone completely new through mental rehearsal and emotional embodiment. Try the mirror breath method for just 7 days and share your breakthrough moments in the comments. Subscribe for more quantum manifestation techniques that actually work. And remember, you are not separate from what you seek. You are what you seek.